Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of our Parashat Shavua class as we continue our learning in Parashat Metzorah. A very interesting lesson. This is a big lesson with a very, very big takeaway. I'm going to tie in a couple of very interesting concepts. I'm also going to try to connect it to some of the current events that we're experiencing in the past few days. Before we get started, I got to give some honorable mentions and dedications to the following people. Baruch Shemo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that this class will be in honor of Jacqueline Bat Alia and Tova Shindel Bat Alta. Also, this should be to the success of Judah Leib Mendel and his new wife Esther. שהשם ברך אותם ושמח אותם, ושהיה ברכה והצלחה, שלום בית אמיתי, זהרה דקיימה, חינוך ילדים בדרך השם, בית של עושר ושמחה ומצווה, and בעזרת השם that we have בשורות טובות, פרנסה בשפע, and בעזרת השם that Yuda Mendel, as I believe, has begun his Sheva Brachot circling, get the brachot 1,000 times fold. What a simcha it was. Baruch Hashem. I know that for so many years we say for the zivug, it's a big siyata d'shmaya. Now I can cross him off this list. Now I put him on another list. For bracha v'atzlacha. Okay. Also, let this class be to the Ilu Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rina, Michel ben Zohara, Aviv ben Vivi, Esther bat Alia, Avraham Yoshua ben Sultana, Simon ben Alia, מזל בת לונה, מאיר בן רבקה, סולטן בת פרחה, יצחק בן צביה, ניסים בן מאיר, רחל בת בלה, יעקב בן תמר, סוזן בת שבה, יהודה בן אהרון, ברנדל בת מאיר דוב, שלום בן זוהרה, and חנה בת חווה. Also, the following people have רפואה שלמה, עמרם בן זוהרה, דניאל בת מזל, יעקב בן דינה, קרן חווה בת דונה, Nir ben Yehudit, and where's her name? Oh, Heleni Orna Bat Chen Chana. Also, this class will be to the Zivug Hagur Mishor Shishmatam to Inval Bat Jacqueline, Bat Chen Bat Jacqueline, Guy ben Dina, Shina Henshi Bat Lea Gittel, Eli ben Shula, Yehudit bat Sarah Imenu, Abigail bat Sarah Imenu, Tamar Dina bat Devora Mirel, and also for the bracha v'atzlacha of Michal Naomi bat Yael Shendol, Avraham ben Daniel, Yosef ben Daniel, Avraham ben Vaolet Chaya, Yehuda Lev ben Tova Shindel, Desiree and Avia, Joseph Dornbush and the Dornbush family, our main sponsor of tonight, Judah Mendel and family, Dov, Shmuel, and Pesi Penina and family, Shashem Vayach Otchem, V'Sameach Otchem, and of course, last but not least, a good friend of the class, Yehudit Ben Shabbat, as she not only learns with us, but sponsors practically almost every class and almost every food that we eat is almost from her all the time, Baruch Hashem. But nevertheless, I want to thank everybody for being here, and also an extra thank you for the Dornbush family, for Rami, for and all the extended family as well, for all the effort that you guys are making to spread Torah around the world. Locally and Baruch Hashem around the world as well. Hashem v'ayach otchem, sameach otchem. Okay, let's get started. Baal Tanya says, Hayav Adam lichyot im hazman. A person must live with the times. Meaning, with Parashat Shavua. A person needs to live with the Torah portion of the week. Why? Whatever is in the Torah portion of the week, that's what's happening in the world, and that's what's happening in your life. If you dig deep inside, sometimes it's not that difficult, but you'll see that whatever is happening in the world, whatever is happening in your life, is all in the weekly portion that we read and we learn. This year, we're in a leap year, Shana Ma'uberet, which basically means that Parashat TAZRIA and METZORAH are typically read as one. But when it's a leap year, we separate it. And we read TAZRIA last week, and we're going to read METZORAH this week, and next week is already going to be Pesach. So obviously, if we follow the words of Baal Tanya, shechayav adam lichyot im hazman, that a person needs to live with the Torah portion, there's a reason why this year HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to park ourselves in Parashat TAZRIA and METZORAH, and from there go straight into Pesach. Nothing happens by happenstance. Everything is by design. And this is what we want to see if we're able to connect the dots, to see what Hashem is trying to tell us through the Torah portion that we're learning on a weekly basis. So tonight there's a big lesson and a big takeaway. But before we can get started with that, let's get some background. The parashiyot come in an order that even the previous parasha has a reason why it's juxtaposed to the upcoming parasha. There's a reason why the parasha that preceded TAZRIA and METZORAH was Shemini. Let me refresh your memory. In Parashat Shemini, the end of the parasha was dealing with all the kosher animals. Remember? All the kosher animals. Now, what you're allowed to eat and what you're not allowed to eat. And then the following parashiot is Ishaki TAZRIA and METZORAH, which we know, just at a broad stroke, those parashiot talk about the concept of Lashon Hara. So what's the connection between kosher animals and evil speech? What's the connection between kosher animals and Lashon Hara? So Chazal tell us, Lama nismecha parashat TAZRIA le parashat Shmini. So Rabbi Israel Salanter says, the Torah comes to teach us in parashat Shmini, Hamutar leachnis velotzi min hapeh. The Torah is teaching us what's the proper thing to put into our mouth and what's the proper thing to take out of our mouth. Meaning, in Parashat Shemini, we're talking about ma asur, ma mutar leachnis el hapeh. What we're allowed to put into our mouth and what we're not allowed to put in our mouth. Kosher, you eat. Non-kosher, you don't eat. But Parashat TAZRIA, this week's parasha, ma mutar u ma asur lotzi min hapeh. What you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. Meaning the same thing. What words are you allowed to emit from your mouth and what words you're not allowed to. So there's a connection over here with the use of the mouth. Shemini deals with the food part of it. TAZRIA and METZORAH deals with what words can come out of it. Furthermore, Rashi says, Rashi actually brings a midrash, Amar Rabbi Samalai, כשם שיצירתו של אדם אחר כל בהמה, חיה ועוף במעשה בראשית. Just like the creation of man happened in an order after the creation of animal, bird, and all of God's creations during Bereshit, כך תורתו נתפרסה אחר תורת בהמה, חיה ועוף. Similarly, all the details that pertain to the human being are detailed after the animals are mentioned. Dichtiv zot Torat habehema in last week's parasha, and then it says v'achar kach ishaki TAZRIA, meaning also you could say that we follow the way of creation, since God created all the things that are like vegetation, animals, birds, insects, so on and so forth, and then He created man. Similarly, He deals with us on what's permissible through that order as well. Imre Noam has incredible insights. We're going to draw from 4 different places this week. But no, Imre Noam, the book from Rav Yoram Michael Abajel, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Always like to draw from this book. Has a lot of beautiful insights. Says, if you look closely, Parashat TAZRIA, even though that this week's parasha is METZORAH, and usually they're coupled. So we're going to bounce back and forth between Tazria and Metzorah. And since we didn't have a class last week, it's even better. We're able to tie two parashiot into one. So it works out. So in last week's parashat Tazria, when it talks about Isha ki Tazria, V'yalda Zachar, talks about the woman that gets pregnant and she gives birth to a boy, and the whole purification process that a woman has to go through after she conceives. Later on, lets us know about Brit Milah, and later on, lets us know on the Yemet Tahara, the days of purification that she has to go through, and the days of separation she has to go through, when it's a boy, when it's a male, when it's a female, and then the korbanot that she has to bring. That she has to bring korban olah and a korban chatat. Later on in Parashat Metzorah, it talks about the Metzorah. The Metzorah is the leper, the one who speaks negatively about other people, the one who speaks motzi lashon ra, the gossiper, the one who speaks evil speech, right? So over there also there's a whole situation over there of his purification process. But something that's interesting that you might want to know, it says in Parashat Tazria, everything that has to do with the purification process of the woman that gives birth is 8 pesukim. Only 8 verses. And all the things that are connected to the Metzorah, the one that is the hold on a second, the leper. Yeah, the leper. The only thing is I want to see just one thing. All the laws are pertaining to the Metzorah, to the leper. It says that over there, there's over 100 pesukim that deal with him. So with the Isha ki Tazria, 8. With the Metzorah, over 100. So it said, why would that be? Why would there be such a big emphasis on the Metzorah? Because we know that there's other mitzvot in the Torah, like the mitzvah of Shabbat, Tefillin, Brit Milah, and we only have like a few pesukim here and a few pesukim there. There's not many subject matters in the Torah that the Torah takes 100 pesukim to detail on how to deal with it. All this is in regards to over 100 pesukim to the inyan of tzaraat, which is the inyan of lashon hara, how to deal with the leper and how to deal with somebody who slanders, who has evil speech, lashon hara. Also, the size, the amount, the quantity of verses that are pertaining to this Metzorah is just a testament to show us how much a person gets distance from God, that he has to do such a long process in order to come back, like the sin of evil speech, like the sin of lashon hara. So, outside, without having to go through a lengthy, going through the 100 pesukim or the 8 pesukim, I'll just summarize for you the comparison between the process of Isha ki Tazria and the Metzorah. So, Isha ki Tazria, when a woman gives birth, she's required to bring an offering, a sin offering. It says, "Velakha shte torim or shte bnei yonah." She takes 2 birds, 2 young doves or 2 turtle doves, echad le'olah ve'echad le'chatat, one for an olah offering and one for a sin offering. Vechiper aleh hakohen ve'tahera, and the kohen would atone for her sins, and she would be purified. My question to you: what did she do? She just gave birth. What's the sin offering for? What sin did a woman do by giving birth? And then on top of that, why does she have to bring a korban olah as well? You see over here that already something is off, and we have to understand what's happening behind the scenes. So it says that the reason why the woman brings a sin offering, a chatat, is because she had 2 sins during that time that she gave birth. It says that initially she has to bring korban chatat because maybe she had resentful thoughts against her husband, or against HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of the labor pains that she was going through. And the sin offering atones for the agony that she might have sworn to never live with her husband again. You could imagine, she's going through pains. This is before the epidural, right? So you can imagine these are real labor pains. And she's like, how did I get here? And then, there's Moishi in the corner, getting all excited. Is he playing for Brit Milah? Is it the Brita? Is he handing out cigars? Is he making pink cupcakes? What is he going to do? He does nice, all excited, he's going to have a baby boy. She's looking at him like with blood red eyes, because of you. Because of you, I'm over here. And because of that, I can't stand you. How did you put me in this situation? I never want to be with you again. She says all these crazy things. I swear I'll never have another child again, she'll say. So what happens? In that moment, she said some things that she wasn't supposed to. So she brings a hatat. She brings a hatat offering for Hashem to atone for the words that she said at that time. What's the korban olah? Well, the minute you start to sin, it creates distance. In order for you to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, you have to do something to get closer. Korban olah, as we learned in many of our classes, is the offering that brings the Kadosh Baruch Hu's closeness to God and become dedicated to Him again. So it's almost like an offering, an elevation offering that brings the closeness back to appease God again. So we have the hatat for the words that she said, and the olah to bring back the closeness. I saw some very interesting wording, and I want to share it with you. By the way, it's always good to know, like you'll notice that we always read a lot in Hebrew. It's because it's good for the neshama to hear the text. It's good for the neshama to hear the pasuk. It's good for the neshama to hear the Gemara, to hear the Zohar. It's not good to always hear Sharone. It's good to hear the actual text. And from that text, it's a good process to hear that. So I want to read for you what it says in Masechet Nidah on the 80th page. It says, כבר שאלו תלמידיו של רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, Rashbi, his students asked him, למה חייבה תורה ליולדת להביא קורבן? Same question that we just asked right now. Why does a woman that's delivering a baby require to bring a sacrifice? וכי באיזה חטא חטאה? What sin did she do? So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gives an interesting answer. He says, דעו שבשעה שהאישה יושבת על המשבר וסובלת מצירי לידה, היא קופצת ונשבעת שלא תזדקק עוד לבעלה. He says when a woman is having labor pains and she's suffering, she swears that she will no longer be with her husband. ומאחר שאין זה שבועה שאפשר לקיימה, and she made a swear, and it's not a promise or a commitment that she can commit herself to. You can't swear not to be with your husband. You're obligated to be with your husband by laws of marriage. But she said it because of the heat of the moment or because of the labor pains that she was going through. שנאמרה מתוך צער, she said it out of sorrow and agony. ואף משועבד לבעלה, and not only that, she's obligated to be with her husband. How could she say those words? לכן חייבה אותה תורה להביא כפרה על כך. So the Torah makes her bring a korban for the words that she said during her labor. כדי שיתכפר לעוון השבועה. So it'll atone for the sin of her false swearing or false, not testimony, but shvuah. Shvuah is oath. She took an oath to never be with her husband, but now it's a false oath because she has to be with him because of the laws of marriage. So in order to atone for the words that she used, she brings the korban. There's an additional opinion, Rabbeinu Bachia brings this, שהקורבן שחייבה תורה בא לתקן חטאה של חווה. Actually, that sin offering is a sin offering that comes to atone for the original sin from Adam and Eve, for what Eve brought into the world. שהביאה מיתה לעולם. Eve brought death to the world. וכן גרמה שתסבול היולדת ייסורים כאלו. Not only that, she also is the one that caused for that woman that's giving birth to have those labor pains and those and that difficulties in giving birth. כאלו שאין כמותם לקושי. These are the most very difficult pains that a person could have. And because she has a part, because these pains came by way of Chava, then the Korban Chatat is to atone for the sin that Chava brought into this world. That was interesting. Let's go to the Metzorah, to the leper. Chazal tell us Metzorah is an acronym. Not an acronym, but like a notricon. Metzorah is a combination of a few words. Metzorah is Motzi Shem Ra. Somebody who creates a bad name for another individual. Now, we can see that a Metzorah, what he does is he singles out one person in the community, one person in society. He singles them out and he speaks negatively about them, which means that this becomes a public humiliation, right? If somebody speaks negatively about somebody, and 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people today with social media and the internet, thousands of people know or millions of people know, so this is a public humiliation. So his teshuvah process is also a public teshuvah process. And the Metzorah has a much lengthier process. Like I said, I'm going to condense those 100 pesukim just to a few bullet points. So the first thing that he has to do, this guy that slanders another individual, somebody who speaks negatively of someone else, what does he have to do? First, he has to go to the spiritual therapist of that time, which is the Kohen. And he looks at him, and he starts to talk to him and ask him, what did you do? And he starts to see that he has negaim. What's negaim? He has all these lesions. And of course, he has to assess the nega. And there's different places. It could show up in his house, on the wall, they turn green. It could show up on his clothes. The clothes begin to change color. It could show up on his skin, where his skin starts to change color. And then the spiritual therapist of that time, which is the Kohen, tells him exactly what he has to do. And he goes through a process where he has to shave all the hairs of his body. He has to be quarantined. He has to bring 2 birds. He has to bring erez v'sheni tolat. He has to bring a cedar tree and a crimson thread and a zov and a hyssop in order to atone for his sins. And he has to be quarantined for a certain amount of time, come back, check. If it's not done, come back again, back and forth. A much lengthier process. So if we compare between EESHA ki TAZRIA, she said something negatively with her mouth, in an extreme situation, something about, between her and her husband, something about herself. It's lashon hara. She used her mouth in the wrong way. And there was a smaller atonement process. But you see, when it came to somebody who's doing it on a larger scale, it's a whole to-do. I saw something beautiful. We'll go into a lot more detail in a little bit, but just one thing that I saw that I think is worth mentioning. It talks about it says about the Metzorah, he has to shave all his hairs. Everything, his eyebrows, his mustache, his hair, his bodily hairs, everything. So it says over there, I saw something very interesting. It says, why does he have to shave all his hairs? It says, the Kli Yakar says, שהתורה מפרטת למדנו על אילו מן האיברים צריך המצורע לכפר במהלך סדר טהרתו. It says, because this is the order that a person has to atone. It says, והיה ביום השביעי גלח את כל שערו, את ראשו, ואת זקנו, ואת גבות עיניו. It says, on the 7th day, after he gets assessed by the Kohen, he has to shave all his hairs, the hairs of his head, the hairs of his beard, and his eyebrows. So they say, why would that be? It says, so the Kli Yakar says, et rosho, the reason why he needs to shave the hairs off of his head, migasot ruach, hanové mikach שאדם רוצה להיות ראש לכל דבר. He says he was an egomaniac. He wants to be the head of everything. You think you're on top of people, right? Shave your head, right? Et zekano, his beard. El sa'arot shesaviv hapeh, lamden shal adam lishmor et piv midburim asurim. He says, why to shave the beard? To show that this is what you have to protect, the mouth. Ved gabot einav, lamdenu ad kama yesh yizaher mitzarot ha'ayin. He says he says also this negative eye that you have on people, that you're judgmental, that you're talking negatively about them. You used your eye in a negative way, then you shave also the eyebrows to see that you used all your head in a wrong way. Later on, we'll see that this entire process of what he did to the person that he spoke negatively about, and his atonement process is even midah keneged midah. We'll see that soon. There's a concept that we spoke about in depth in the past, and it's coming up again here, and it's worth mentioning. It says, in regards to the Metzorah, זאת תהיה תורת המצורע ביום טהרתו והובא אל הכהן. It says this is the way, the Torah, the actual instruction manual, how to deal with a spiritual leper that contacted this leprosy through evil speech when he comes in front of the Kohen. And it says, שהנגעים שבאים על האדם אינם דרך הטבע, אלא בגלל עוונותיו. First things first, don't think that this is something from today. The guy has a rash, he needs some Neosporin, cortisone, or take him to the doctor, he'll give him some sort of a special cream. It's not something like he didn't touch poison ivy and he needs to, clear his skin. It's not like he has some sort of a thing that today we would say he just needs a cream. He says, no, this is something completely different and supernatural. It says, enam derech hateva, these are not by ways of nature. These are things that are showing up on his body because of his sins. So here we're going to relearn a concept that we learned before, is that all physical ailments that a person goes through is because there's a spiritual ailment. Because a person has something wrong in his neshama, it reflects on a person's body through a sickness. As we said when we learned about that slave that got hit, not that slave, that person that got hit and got punched out, and the pasuk says, rapoi rapeh, right? That you're allowed to go to a doctor to seek healing. So it says, so Rabbeinu Bach here talks about the wording of rapoi rapeh. He says, why is it rapoi rapeh? Why is it not rafoi rafeh? Why isn't does the peh have a dagesh in it? What does have that dot that's dagush? Because notice when we say for healing, what do we say? We say refuah shelema. Why don't we say refuah shelema? So Rabbeinu Bach says, it says rapoi rapeh because the person has a black dot on his soul. He has something that's wrong in his neshama, and he has to find out what it is. And once he erases that black spot from his neshama, then that'll be a refuah. And that's what notice when we say refuah shelema. What? There's no more dark spot. There's no more dagesh. So you see that any physical ailment comes from a spiritual ailment. Greatest example, Metzorah. The Metzorah has a lesion. He's Metzorah. He has a nega on him. How did that nega come onto his body? It's because there's something wrong in his neshama. What's his neshama? He likes to speak negatively about people. He'd like to make an example like a car, right? A car has indicators. Engine light goes on, the engine is wrong. The oil light goes on, the oil is wrong. The tire pressure goes on, the tire is wrong. Similarly is the body. When there's some sort of a sickness in the body, know that there's some sort of a mitzvah or some sort of a lack of a mitzvah, or maybe transgressing chas v'shalom on a mitzvah, is why there's that physical ailment. The greatest example is the Metzorah. Continues to say, when it says, Zot tiyeh Torat HaMetzorah, Kol HaMesaper Lashon Hara Al Chaver, Kilo Over Al Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Now you're going to start understanding this thing that we thread on, that we just walk on every day, that we talk about people, we gossip, idle chatter all day long about people. And today, on a wholesale level, today a person posts something online, that's it, there you go. Back in the day, old school Lashon Hara was you and your girlfriend, right? Or maybe some family Lashon Hara, aunt, uncle, daughter, sister, whatever it is, right? Yet, nowadays, the Yetzirah took it to the billionth power. You don't like somebody, you get super upset, you go online, you post something, you go off, whole Megillah over there, and there it is, the thing goes viral. 2,000 views, 5,000 views, 100,000, 1,000,000. That's a Lashon Hara on a wholesale level. How we've got so used to it. Not only that, there's a sin not only to speak, to receive. So even if somebody else posted it and you're reading it, you're sinning too. Because you have three people that sin. It's the person that posted it, or I'll say the person that said Lashon Hara, you that's listening to it, and the person that you're speaking about. Three people are affected. The person that's speaking Lashon Hara, he's going to get his punishment. The person that's accepting, listening to Lashon Hara, is going to get his punishment. And now the person that they're speaking about Lashon Hara, what do they put? They put all this negative energy on him. Everybody gets affected negatively. No winners here. Zero winners in Lashon Hara.
Why is he at fault?
He's not at fault, but that's what happens. That's how the world works. People can put negative energy on people. Ayin Hara. Lashon Hara is the beginning step towards Ayin Hara. And it says so much that a person, when he speaks Lashon Hara, it's as if he transgresses on the entire Torah. As it says, Zot Torat Nega Atzarat, Zot Tieh Torat HaMetzorah, Zot Torat Hashem Bo Nega Atzarat, Zot Torah Lechol Nega Atzarat, Zot Torat Atzarat. It says it 5 times to show us that the Tzarat and Torah is connected as if he's transgressing on all 5. Moshe Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man to ever live, in the book Kohelet, says, Al titen et picha lachtit besarecha. Don't let your mouth sin, and your flesh is going to pay for it. Va'al tomar lifnei malach ki shegagahi. And don't say in front of the angel, it was a mistake. Lama iksofa Elohim al kolecha vechibel et maaseh yadecha. Because Hashem is going to get angry at what you uttered, and He's going to foil all your handiwork. What is this pasuk telling us? Al totzi mipicha lashon hara chaverecha. Why shouldn't you speak evil speech about your friend? Ki ata gorem chet klape besarecha. Because that's who's going to pay for that evil speech? Your own flesh. Your flesh pays for what your mouth does. Lashon hara, the way that it works is that a person gets a nega, a tzarat on his flesh. So a person needs to do 2 things. Close your mouth. Because if you don't close your mouth, your flesh is going to get it. Or like we said today, that a person gets his physical ailment from his spiritual ailment. But even if you're going to do it old school, very quietly, nobody hears, it's just me and my girlfriend, it's just me and my husband, it's just me and my friend, nobody's going to know. Da, כי יש מלאך לצדך שומע אותך והוא כותב הכל מה שאתה מדבר חברך. He says you should know when you speak evil speech, there's an angel right next to you, and that angel writes all the things that you write, and all the things that you said, and documents it. So a person needs to be very, very careful to not to think, oh, I'm not posting online where 1,000 people are listening. Oh, I'm not talking to everybody. Just one person. Yeah, one person plus the angel, plus that angel right there who's writing down all the words that you're saying, documenting it, going to report it up in the Shammai. And you know what happens once you speak? The body's going to get it. So if you don't want any sicknesses, chas v'shalom, guard your mouth. V'achat ha'klalot shekilela, maybe I'll add some history. This is very interesting. ואחת הקללות שקילל הקדוש ברוך הוא את הנחש הקדמוני, כשהשיא את חווה, הייתה שבשרו של הנחש התמלא צרעת לכל ימי חייו, אז שידבר לשון הרע. Who's the original one that got tzarat? Who's the original one that his skin got inflicted because of evil speech? The snake. The snake in Adam and Chava. The snake spoke lashon hara about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, you're going to have tzarat on your skin. And by the way, that's why the snake sheds his skin every 7 years. That's his tzarat. That's how he heals from it and starts again. ומי שמדבר לשון הרע וגורם פירוד בין בעל ואשתו, and you should know that when a person speaks evil speech, you know what is the instant results. First of all, there's a separation between husband and wife, and there's a separation between a fellow friend. And not only that, but besides the fact, because why? If you go ahead and speaking evil speech about somebody, what are you doing? You're creating you're trying to disconnect that individual from society. You're trying to disconnect that individual from the community, from his wife. When you speak negatively about somebody, people are going to think negatively about him. When you think negatively about somebody, you distance yourself from that person. That's the natural progression of action that happens. So if you're going to go do that, midah keneged midah says, you want to distance the world from that individual? Okay, first you're going to have distance with your wife. Then you're going to have distance with your friends. Why? Because you talk lashon hara, midah keneged midah. You want to distance him from the world, from the people, from society, from community. I'm going to distance you from what's close to you, husband, wife, and from friends. Furthermore, וכל מי שמדבר לשון הרע חברו, מקללו הקדוש ברוך הוא ואומר לו, שיהיה ארור כפי שמן נחש. It says, and anybody who speaks evil speech about another person, God curses him like the way he cursed the snake. As the pasuk says, ארור מכה רעהו בסתר, ואמר כל העם, Amen. Remember when the Jewish people were sitting, Har Eval, they were talking about, they were saying that they were saying all the berachot and the kelalot. One of the kelalot was what? Arur, cursed. Amaker ya'u basater, somebody who hits his friend hidden, not hidden, concealed, meaning without him seeing. V'amar kol ha'am, amen. And the whole nation said, yeah, that man, he's cursed. Amen. So how can you hit somebody without anybody seeing? So it's not like, you sucker punch somebody and you run away and he doesn't see who hit him. That's not what the pasuk is saying. Hamakeh re'ehu basater is when you damage your friend without him knowing. How do you do that? When you speak lashon hara about him. So when a person speaks lashon hara, the other guy, one guy's in Brooklyn, the other guy's in Miami. How's he gonna know? Makero basater, you're talking lashon hara about him in Miami, and he's getting damaged where? In Brooklyn. Cursed is that person. V'amar kol ha'am, amen. So we have to be very, very careful. Furthermore, we learned this pasuk, half of this pasuk, in the Tefillah 101 class last week. This will add another layer. There's a pasuk in Tehillim. Mi ha'ish hachafetz chayim. Who's the one that wants life? Ohev yamim lir'ot tov. He loves long life to see the goodness of the world. Who's that guy that wants a long life, a happy life, and to see the goodness of life? Who's that? Raise your hand if it's you. It says, "Netzor leshonecha merah, ushfatecha medaber mimah." Oh, you want to be that guy? You want to enjoy life? You want a long life? You want a good life? No problem. Netzor leshonecha merah. Curb your tongue from speaking evil speech. Ushfatecha medaber mimah, and your lips from speaking deceit. You want a good life? You want a happy life? You want a successful life? Close your mouth. Don't speak lashon hara. Don't be deceitful. By the way, we spoke about this part of the pasuk being in the Amidah, mentioned 2 times at the end. Netzor leshoncha mera, hiri ratzon mefiv, and then it says, Elokai, netzor leshonim mera, usfatatam medaber bima. So it comes from this pasuk. So we say, why do we ask right after? We just finished the entire Amidah, 19 berachot. We prayed for shalom. Shalom is the kli hamachzik et kol haberacha. So what do we have over here? We have an entire Amidah where we ask for Refuah and Geula and Parnasah and Mashiach and all these things. Comes the end of the Amidah, we ask for Shalom, Birkat Kohanim, Oseh Shalom. Everything is like that. When we said that because we have all these 19 berachot, we just prayed for all the shefa from the Shamayim to come down. Here is the kli to receive it. The line right after all that is this line. Why would that be? Because you know how you can ruin all your blessings? When you speak Lashon Hara. When you don't guard your mouth, that's how you break everything. The vessel the vessel that holds the berachot is broken. Everything that you prayed for has nowhere to go, and that's what it is. It says the Lashon Hara hores et hakol. And that's why that's the first line after the bracha. Why is it the final line? To let you know that if you don't guard your mouth, all the blessings are gone. As it says in Mishle, once again, Shlomo HaMelech, Shomer piv ulshono, Shomer mitzarot nafsho. Somebody who guards his mouth and his tongue, he protects himself from all the troubles of the world. Meaning how much power, both positive and negative, is embedded in the lips and the tongue, in the power of speech. And when we use it incorrectly, it's damaging to us in every way, in a physical way, in a spiritual way, and of course, kal v'chomer if we do it in a positive way, how we get to benefit from it. But tonight's lesson is about not using it in a negative way. Furthermore, we spoke about EESHA TAZRIA and METZORAH. The only reason why we're speaking about these two things together is because the Torah puts them together. And it's because we have to understand if the Torah puts these two subject matters together is because we have to deal with them in a certain way, in a similar way, and learn from both of them. So here we have the woman that just gave birth, and she sinned with the things that she said during labor. What's her atonement process? And then we have the METZORAH, the one who did it on a much larger scale. What's his atonement process? So let's go into the atonement process first for a second. It says, EESHA TAZRIA, she has to bring shte torim or shte bnei yonah, 2 turtle doves or 2 doves. So the question is, why is it that she has to bring birds? Why is it that she has to bring birds? Out of all the sacrifices, we have sheep, we have lambs, we have cows, oxes, bulls, all these. Why is it that a person, the woman has to bring shte torim or shte bnei yonah? So I saw something here that is very unique that describes it. I'll start with Bereshit Rabbah. And then there's a beautiful chidush over here from Avraham Avichzer from Yerushalayim. He says, Bereshit Rabbah says, Lama korbana sheyoledet mu'at? Why is the sacrifice of the woman that gives birth so tiny, like just birds? Ela v'nema v'lishechat shukatecha. It says that the woman, one of her curses, let's call it, it's right there in that area in Bereshit where the curses are mentioned. I don't know if this is a curse, but it says that we know that the wife, her passion, who she's going to be, connected to and want only his attention is her husband. So she knows from the beginning of time, you can't disconnect yourself from your husband. But when she gives birth, she said, I don't want my husband anymore, I don't need him anymore. But from the beginning of time, you're always going to need him. You're always going to be not only need him, but you are constantly going to be tied into him as a wife and husband relationship. רבי ברכיה ורבי סימון בשם רבי שמעון בר יוחאי אמרו, לפי שרפרפה בליבה. She says the reason why she said that, or the reason why she has to bring a korban, is because she had like a passing thought in her heart. Shirhera neder beliba. She thought about not needing her husband anymore because of the situation that he put her in, and she did that in her heart. Velo tzi ota b'peh. She didn't really verbalize it. She thought about it. Lefichach tavi korban merufraf. He says that's why she should bring a tiny type of korban, not something big. Kal v'rafeh, something light. Shne torim or shne bnei yonah. Meaning it's not like she really meant it. It was the heat of the moment. Maybe she even just thought it. It was a passing thought. Maybe she didn't verbalize it. So that's what she brings. Two turtle doves. So Rav Abichzeh over here says something excellent. He says, you know why there's Yonah? You might not know this about pigeons, but you know the whole concept of lovebirds. You know what lovebirds are? You know what a Yonah? What's very unique about a pigeon is that it chooses one life partner and that's it. It only has eyes for one. Meaning the husband and the wife are married forever. And once they are no longer married, or the other one dies out, they don't take another partner. They don't take another partner.
I know they keep Shabbat also.
They do?
Yeah, they make research. It's like they put in special gauge and they give food on the ground and many different experiences. Said they keep Shabbat 100%.
So that's the pigeon. That's the turtle dove. So it says, "Lilmod ma'yona sheyesh mesirut nefesh v'ne'emanut." He says the Torah wants us to learn that the reason why the pregnant woman that needs to bring a korban of 2 turtle doves is because learn from the pigeon. Learn what? Mesirut nefesh, total commitment, v'ne'emanut, and being faithful. And that's why it says in the Midrash, ma'yona moseret tzavara l'shchita, וגם אינה מחלפת את בן זוגה, גם כך כנסת ישראל מוסרת נפשה להשם יתברך, ואינה מחליפה את בן זוגה לעולם. It says just like a pigeon, its nature is to outstretch its neck to get shechted, and also its other quality is that it never let go of its partner. There's only one partner in their life. Similarly is the Jewish nation, that we also have Mesirut Nefesh for Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we will never switch our partnership with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Derech Hagav, back in the days, the mail system, to deliver mail, they would use pigeons, right? So let's say I'm in Israel, and I want to send a letter to Egypt. How do they do it? You tell the pigeon, here's the address, and it knows. How did they do it?
They put one partner to the...
So they took 2 couples, they separated them, and they would search for each other. And that's how. So you'd have one in the post office in Cairo, and you have another one in the post office in Israel, and they would go back and forth. Furthermore, it says that in Shir HaShirim, Einayich Yonim, right? It says that the Jewish people, our eyes are the eyes of a pigeon. Meaning what? We don't see any other religion. All we see is God. We act like the pigeon. We only see God. So similarly over here, the reason why it said Bnei Yonah is for her to learn from the Bnei Yonah. Furthermore, why 2? He says just like there's Zug Yonim, just like the pigeons act in a way where they are a couple, similarly, she has to understand that you and your husband are always going to be a couple. You can't not be a couple with you and your husband. So, Zug Yonim, so you can see, just like the Yonim are inseparable, you and your husband are inseparable. Here he gives a beautiful gematria. We know that the Gemara tells us, Ish ve'isha zachu shchina benehem, that when a man and a woman married and they have God's holy presence reside amongst them, he says, the gematria for Ish ve'isha zachu is 656. And the numerical value for the word pigeons, torim, is 656. Another one to show you that there's a reason over there. I thought that was a beautiful gematria.
פרשות תזריע זכר זה 227, with bracha 227.
Also used to be a show back in the days. Hashem Yechod Kol Shabbat B'Shem Tev Hashem Yisrael B'Chata Adonai Elohecha Haolam Shakol Niyeh B'Dor.
Amen. By the way, about talking and listening, that's what they've been said, that you're born with one mouth and 2 ears. That means you have to listen at least double when you talk.
Nice. Another reason why there's two birds, there's a process. The process is that they take the bird and they shecht one, and then the other one they let go. So they say, why would that be? Why would one get shechted and another one let go? To show us that you had the power to either say lashon hara or not to say lashon hara. He says this is to show you that you're always in control. And last time you chose to say lashon hara. This is for what you said. Next time, let that opportunity go and don't speak lashon hara. Another reason why there's two and there's one is shechted and the other one is set free. Let's focus on the leper now, the METZORAH. He also has a process, an interesting process, and it says, he also, his tarato, his purification process, was also done through two birds. Why would there be two birds for the METZORAH as well? So the Gemara, Masechet Arachin, on the 16th page on the second side says, לפי שהנגעים באים על לשון הרע, שהוא מעשה פטפוטי דברים. He says these lesions, these negaim, come by way of evil speech. And what is evil speech? It's people talking, chattering, speaking, gossiping. לפיכך הוזקקו לטהרתו ציפורים שמפטפטים תמיד בצפצוף קול. He says, so they brought the animal that's also always gossiping, chirping. Chip, 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 chip. He says that what's the perfect animal or the perfect that's going to atone for that sin? Bring the tzipor shemepatpetin. Just like who mepatpet, the tziporim mepatpetin tabi betziftzuf kol. So the reason why the Gemara says it's birds, because he was like a chirping bird, talking all the time about people. The Parshat Pshat brought something incredible over here. And anybody who was in the Tefillah class will appreciate this, because we spoke about this as well in regards to the Jewish people being like the worm, the power of a worm, if you recall. It brings it back over here. It says that one of the things that the person needs to bring is B'tziva Kohen v'lakach lamitaher, that Kohen tells him to bring to the METZORAH that wants to get purified, shte tzipurim chayot teorot, two birds, etz erez, a cedar tree, shni tolaat, a crimson thread, ve'ezov, hyssop. Hyssop is za'atar, smaller, like very weak little shrub looking thing. So the question is, what's this combination? Birds, cedar tree, thread that comes from a worm, and hyssop. So it says, שאף אם יהיה שפל אנשים כתולעת, הוא מכה באדם גדול שנמשל לארז. על כן כפרתו עץ ארז, ושני תולעת ואזוב. He says, a person is like a tree. It's very hard to take down a person. A person is a person. He says, but comes a person is like a tree. He says, but comes the tolat. What's the tolat? Tolat is the worm. We know that tolat is very, very strong, that it's actually able to put down trees. How? The worm goes inside the tree and starts to eat the inside of the tree. Inside of the tree, eventually the inside of the tree is completely eaten out, and it's able to put down a big cedar tree. As a matter of fact, we said that, even an elephant can't put down a tree, even a lion can't put down a tree. But comes a worm, with time, with enough eating on the inside, it could actually make a cedar tree fall. So this is what it's saying. A person is like a tree. The lashon hara is like the worm inside the tree that's able to make a person fall down. ועל זה כפרתו עץ ארץ ושני תולעת ואזוב. And that's why those things are specifically chosen for him. The Kli Yakar brings this. לכפר מה שעשה מעשה התולעת בארץ וטרפתו שיספיל עצמו כאזוב. And what's his therapy? What's his healing process? That eventually he needs to be lowly like the hyssop tree, meaning a cedar tree stands straight, right? And somebody who's, like let's say somebody who's very strong or very determined, or somebody who has maybe even a lot of gava, right? He's strong. He says, no, don't be like that tree. You know what you have to be like an azov. What's an azov? The wind pushes it in any sort of direction. You can bend it in any way. Why? That's your tufa. Because you think you're a big shot. You're standing tall to everybody else. Be like an azov. And that's why those three things were chosen for the atonement process. Now, there's an additional question on the Metzorah that we want to ask. And this is something that, again, we're not going to read the 100 Pesukim, but I'll summarize it for you. The entire time when it talks about the Metzorah, it says something very, very interesting. Every time it mentions the Metzorah, it calls him Adam. It says Adam ki yeh be'or besaro se'et v'sapachat, etc., etc., etc. And we know that when the Torah describes a person, there are different ways, different words can be used. It could be called Adam, can be called Ish, can be called Gever, and could be called Enosh. Adam is the highest, meaning Adam is the highest level you can call a person in the Torah. Beneath it is Ish. Beneath that is Gever. The lowest level that a person can get to is when he gets the category of Enosh. So every time it talks about a pasuk of a Metzorah, what does it call him? Adam, 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 Adam. So it's very strange, because we've been talking about this Metzorah as a bad guy. This guy's talking about people. Look at the process he has to go through. Yet we call him Adam. The highest level you can call somebody in the Torah is Adam. So how could that be? He says because the reason why he's called Adam with everything that pertains to Tzarat, ki pa'amim rabot. He says a person, because many times the person feels that when is a person condescending, insulting, who talks about negatively about somebody else? When he's what? I'm above you, right? I'm better than you. You're an Enosh. You're a Gever. You're an Ish. I'm an Adam, right? When you think you're higher than everyone else. Mishar Nashim, and he starts to nullify everybody. So it says over here, you can't do that. We know why you can't do that. Ki kol echad miYisrael hu bno shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, don't forget that we're all God's children. We are banim LaKadosh Baruch Hu. Banim atem LaShem Elokechem. As the pasuk says, that we are God's children. And when a person honors God's children and deals with them with modesty, with humility, with respect, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, midah keneged midah, measure for measure, also will give him honor and respect, and his children will be respected, and he'll help him be successful in all the things that he does in his life. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will influence their lives with a lot of spiritual abundance and physical success. Both in the spiritual and physical realms, they'll be successful. How? By treating God's children with respect. But when you think you're better than them, Adam, more than that, he says that is the beginning of the negaim that come of a person. Why? Because he says, pogea bazulat. How does he hurt society? He says that eventually by insulting the other individual, he gets damaged, begufo, bemamono, bechvodo. He says he gets hurt in all areas, in his physical, money, his honor gets diminished. Shvichut damim, gezel, gasot ruach, tzarot ayin, lashon hara. He falls in all the negative places that a person doesn't want to be, just by speaking negatively about another individual. Furthermore, something that can be interpreted in today's day-to-day life. It says in Mishnah Benegaim, on the 14th Mishnah, it says when the Kohen purifies the Metzorah, he has to tell him tahor. He has to tell him that he's pure or got purified. And what happens when the guy finally reaches this stage? Because you have to understand, just like to paint this picture. The guy speaks negatively about somebody. What happens? First, the walls in his house turn green. Hashem is telling him, stop it. Enough. Wake up. You're talking negatively about my kids. Do teshuvah. You know what he does? He goes to Home Depot and he buys white paint. He just paints over the green, paints over the mold. Hashem says, okay. Turns his sofa, the leather sofa that he's sitting on, he changes colors. He says, it smells like mold in here, or I don't know, there's something over here. He throws out the couch. He calls City Furniture, brand new furniture. He's like, Dachira, I'm trying to do teshuvah, please. You're talking negatively about my children. Starts to show up on his clothes. He's like, man, you know, this already time for a new wardrobe. He throws out his clothes, buys new. He thinks he's getting rid of the problem. The Kadosh Baruch Hu brings it to him on his skin. Can't you see? You're doing something wrong. I gave you a chance. I showed it to you in your house. I showed it to you on your couch. I showed it to you on your clothes. I even put it on your body. Do teshuvah. Finally, he decides that, he can't live with his this mark on his body. He goes to the Kohen, the spiritual therapist, and the Kohen tells him, listen, because of the way you've been treating people in society, you've been talking negatively about Moshe, David, Yaakov, and now everybody doesn't want to do business with them. Nobody wants to, their kids can't have play dates. Nobody wants to come over their house for Shabbat. You're disconnecting. You're making people move away from them. The only way you're going to come back is if you feel exactly the way that they feel. Outside, 7 days. Outside of the machaneh. Go be outside of the home, of the area that we live in, and be by yourself for 7 days. And he's sitting there, and he's supposed to be thinking, how did I do that? I'm so, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have done, like a teshuvah. And also, nobody can pray for. He can't pray for himself. He's out of the ability to pray for himself. So he stands over there. He says, "Please pray for me. Please pray for me." Now he's begging for community to come and pray for him so he can get out of this tzara. And then after he comes, the Kohen tells him, "Okay, now go shave your eyebrows, shave your mustache, shave your beard, shave your head." And you can imagine he's going into Publix, and all of a sudden you see this guy. You know how weird people look without eyebrows, walking around, and he's standing out in society. Why? You humiliated people in public. Your teshuvah has to be public. You have to get publicized. Oh, look at him. He's a metzorah. This guy's he speaks Lashon Hara. It's embarrassing. That's right. You embarrass other people, you have to feel the exact same way too. So we see over here that he has to do a process. So when he gets to the process that it says tahor, he went through a lot. He went through a lot in order to get there. And it's good because he needs to feel that in order to, equalize what he made other people feel. That's part of the process. So the Perek Negaim, the Perek Yudalet says, when the Kohen calls him tahor, כאשר רואה המצורע שבכוח הדיבור לרפא את חטאו, so when the guy, the Metzorah, sees the power of speech and how it's able to atone for his sin, הוא נוכח לדעת, he comes to the realization, כי מוות וחיים ביד הלשון. Life and death is in the hands of the tongue. So over here I want to stop for 1 second, because it doesn't make sense. Life and death, that I get, is in the hands of the tongue. My tongue has no hands. Does anybody have a tongue with hands? What's beyad halashon? These are two parts that shouldn't be connected. In the hands of the tongue. Tongue we use for speech, for speaking. Hands, what do we use for? Texting. Yad halashon. That's now.
Because it's
That we use our hands to speak. Yad halashon. Only in this generation we're able to do what? Use our hands for speech.
But you know that it's
I heard this a couple of years ago from Rabbi Mansour. It was a beautiful chidush. He was here in Miami Kollel somewhere. He gave this drasha. He says up until now I never understood what's yad halashon. But now that I have a cell phone in my pocket and people are now using their hands to speak, chaim v'mavet. It says ki mavet v'chaim beyad halashon. We see that nowadays, people with online, internet, blogging, reviews, social media, posting, a person goes and really just these keyboard warriors, just with the they get on the keyboard, they say what they say, press send, and boom, on a wholesale level. And Chaim v'mavet, life and death, is by the hand, is by the words that we use with the typing, with the texting. Absolutely, many people died and committed suicide even from what? From comments. From liking, disliking, bullying online, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
There's a beautiful story in the Gemara. I mentioned in Tefillah 101. For those of you that have heard it, you'll hear it again. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel had a servant named Tavi. He was very wise. And one time, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel tells Tavi, go to the market and bring me the best thing from the market. He comes back with a tongue. The following week, he tells him, go to the market, bring me the worst thing that's in the market. He comes back with a tongue. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel comes to Tavi, he tells him, Tavi, last week I told you bring me the best, you brought me a tongue. This week I told you bring me the worst, you brought me a tongue. Manaf kamina, well, what's going on over here? He says, if you use your tongue properly, there's nothing better. It's the best thing that there is. But if you use your tongue negatively, it's the worst thing that you can have. There's another maaseh in Midrash Rabbah. It was brought. There was a merchant that would go from town to town. And he would go and he would scream out, Man ba'ele mizban sam hayim. Who wants to buy the elixir of life? Imagine there was a guy walking with a carriage and he says, I have the elixir of life. Like I have a thing that gives long life. People would line up. Who doesn't want to get the elixir of life, right? Everybody started to laugh at him. Rav Yanai havayativ upasha betuklina amar le. So there was a rabbi over there, Rabbi Yanai. He says he sat down and he was learning over there, and he tells this merchant that is apparently selling Sam Chaim, the elixir of life. He says, Ta hacha sakle hacha zabinli. Sell it to me. Give me this Sam Chaim. Sell me this elixir of life. So the merchant tells him, you and people that look like you don't need this. Because he was a rabbi. So what do you mean? He says, what do you mean I don't need it? He says, sell me right now. You're a merchant. You're here for business. Sell me this elixir of life. He tells him, no. You and people like you don't need this. You don't need. Go away. This is my customers don't look like you. So the Rav Yanai started to pressure him. And he says, no, sell me. He says, okay. So the merchant takes out a book of Tehillim, and he takes it to the pasuk that we were just learning. Mi ha'ish hachafetz chaim ohev yamim lirot tov. It tells him, who's the one that loves long life, good life, happy life? Netzor leshoncha merah u'sfatecha medaber ma. Guard your mouth from speaking evil speech, and guard your mouth from lips from speaking deceit. And even Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man to ever live, said, Shomer pivu shono, shomer mitzavot nafsho. We just learned it before. Interesting that we even have this over here in the Midrash Rabbah.
What did he say?
That a person who protects his mouth and his tongue, he protects himself from troubles. A person who watches what he says is surely going to be without problems. So Rav Yanai answers him, כל ימי הייתי קורא המקרא הזה ולא הייתי יודע היכן הוא, פשוט עד שבא רוכל זה והודיעני. He says, my entire life I'm reading this pasuk and I had no idea what I was reading, and that was so simple that this is the elixir to life, that this is the secret to life, until this merchant came and taught it to me. לפיכך משה הזהיר את ישראל, זאת תהיה תורת המצורah. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu said, זאת תהיה תורת המצורah. Moshe Rabbeinu put a lot of emphasis, over 100 pesukim, about the Torah, the rectification process of the Metzorah. Torah motzi shem ra, that a person needs to be very careful not to slander or evil speech. As a matter of fact, Moshe Rabbeinu in Mishneh Torah, the book that he wrote in 36 days, starts Ele HaDevarim. Chazal tell us Ele HaDevarim. He says no, Elu HaDiburim. He says there's a cryptic message over there. He says Moshe Rabbeinu is coming to tell you. I'm about to tell you the rebuke. I'm about to tell you my farewell message to you. I'm going to do a whole review of the Chumash, and I'm going to tell you exactly what needs to be done. But the first few words, the first 2 words of Sefer Devarim, Ele HaDevarim. Chazal tell us he was telling them Ele HaDiburim. Ma ze Ele HaDiburim? These are the words, the speech, the talking that you guys do. And the word Ele, he says, be careful, שזה לא יהיה אבק לשון הרע. The dust of לשון הרע. Ele, אבק לשון הרע, הדיבורים. Be careful from the dust of evil speech. Because it's very hard not to hear. You're in the supermarket, somebody's saying this, you're around people, not everybody, you can't walk around like this all day long. So there's a chance that you might hear. It's called an avak, the dust of Lashon Hara. He says, be careful even from that, even from the dust of Lashon Hara. El hadiburim, el hadivarim. Furthermore, there's a lesson that we must learn. We got to put this under our belt. We have to know this. This is a master key to being a successful Jew. This is a master key to breaking your yetzer. If you ever had like a really, really like rough character where you think you're a big shot and you have to tell everybody off and what your opinion is the best opinion, this is really going to be a hard one for you, but it's necessary. Anybody who's struggling with their ego. And also, you're about to learn what the whole world is standing on. The whole world is standing on this lesson. It says, in this world, we live in a world of social media, internet, that people like to publicize globally when somebody does something wrong. As soon as somebody does something wrong, what happens? They put him on blast, right? Oh, look what he did. Cameras, tags, right? And there's all these outlets, right? It's not just channel 2 and 4 and 7. Now there's 500 channels, right? And then there's social media. And then there's the newspapers. One person does something wrong. Back in the days, it gives the person the ability to maybe rectify, do something wrong. There's also we have law and order. We have a justice system that puts people in check. This extra thing that we have in this generation where we just publicize everything, is it positive or is it negative? It depends. So look what he says over here. He says this continuous repeating on the person's sin and everything that he did wrong, regardless, he did something wrong. We're not saying that he's innocent. He's not innocent. He's 100% guilty. But this publicizing of what he did wrong over and over and over and over again, and keep it going for weeks, for months, for years, he says it's shfichut dam. It's outright murder. You're murdering that person. Yeah, he did something wrong, but you're murdering him. In the newspapers and on the news outlets and social media. צריך לדעת שאין שום היתר בעולם לעשות זאת. There is no, it's not permissible to publicize a person like that and to kill his character in public. גם אם אדם חטא ולפי שורת הדין ראוי לענישו במלוא חומרת הדין, even if he's the guiltiest person, you have to throw the book at him, עדיין אין שום היתר לפרסם את קלונו ברבים ולשפוך את דמו. Nobody has the right to publicize his name on a wholesale level, like in on all the outlets, and to spill his blood. שעושה זאת גדול עוונו מנשוא. A person that does that, his sin is greater and won't be able to carry the punishment that comes from it. So, in this generation, this is the everyday norm. You can't wait to wake up in the morning and say, who's the next korban? Who's the next sacrifice in today's news? He did this and he did that. Okay, everyone, every outlet has to have their little salt and pepper on it. Also between Jews. It's not so simple. If a person, let's say, you can get into like some very detailed questions. Let's say you had a bad experience with a mechanic. Can you give him a bad review? You had a bad experience with your dentist. Can you give him can you put him on blast online? Can you? What's the Jewish approach to it? This whole thing of publicizing him and causing him harm, this lashon hara that gets perpetuated over and over and over again, and it's there, it's very damaging. And that's sort of exclusive to our generation. And it says, because of this, because people have become accustomed to speak lashon hara on all these outlets and take people and literally murder their character online, the world gets affected by it. The world that we live in gets affected by this type of behavior. And it says that the world starts to deteriorate and financially it collapses and people get sick. And as it says that the whole world stands on what? There's a pasuk in Yov, Tole Eretz al Belima. He says that the whole world is suspended on the fact that people hold themselves back from answering, from talking, from slandering. Yes, you have every right. He's 100% wrong. But do you have to be the one? You're about to have a fight with your spouse. You hold yourself back. The whole world stands because you held back. Tole aretz al belima. Klomar, kol ha'olam omed al blimat hapeh. The whole world stands and when a person holds himself back from answering back or saying evil speech. And when people don't hold back and are constantly just speaking negatively, the world starts to crash and deteriorate in all areas. Stop right here. Is the world deteriorating? Is the world deteriorating in all areas? Look at society with crime, with lack of respect for law, order. Look at kids with adults, kids with teachers, kids in general. Where is that coming from? You know why? Because the lashon hara is an all-time high. There's a cause and effect. When there's a lashon hara, when we don't be mekayeb, tole eretz al belima, when every time somebody has like a little a passing thought and they put it online and they're insulting people, degrading people, insulting people, you know what that causes the world? To deteriorate. Why do we have crime? Why do we have all these corrupt officials? Why are there wars in the world? You know why? Dare I say, the Google generation, the age of technology. We went to the internet And don't get me wrong, the internet is great, social media is great, there's amazing things over there. But when the bulk of the people are using it for negative, the world shows us the result. It's interconnected. Could you imagine? We want to say to the world, hey, what's going on in the world? What's going on in the world? Lashon hara on a wholesale level.
Is there a correction?
Yes.
You're going to get into that? The next part?
In METZORAH. First, let's highlight the problem. We started with the woman, she's pregnant, she's angry at her husband. We started with the guy that just was talking about people negatively. We step into reality and we see that the whole world is deteriorating because something changed in the world. The internet, social media, and the ugly side of people came out. Because people are such heroes behind the screen at home. This is not social media, this is social massacre media. It's nothing close to what it's supposed to be. Because the dark side of people comes out, the negative side, the ugly side of people came out on social media. They love to smile in front of food, but boy, do they have a sharp tongue when they want to tell somebody off, or when they want to talk negatively about somebody, when they want to post about this, about that. Cancel culture. What's cancel culture? Cancel culture is Lashon Hara on the highest level. That you should be not around. Canceled. Get out of here. We don't need you in society anymore. We're done with you. Kleenex, the tissue. You're done. Furthermore, he says, that's why in this generation, there's so many incredible sicknesses that were never there before. There were never these sicknesses before. Never these diseases before. Where did all these come out of the woodwork? Where did all these crazy sicknesses come from? He says it all comes from evil speech. Because people don't have any blocks on their mouth, no blocks on their tongue. They just say anything that they want. They're not scared. That's another part of the chutzpah. Chutzpah is what? Chutzpah, when the Gemara said that in the time of Ikvata de Mashiach, chutzpah is get, that people will be brazen. You know what's brazen? First of all, when you are brazen, you don't care what comes out your mouth, right? When a person has derech eretz, respect, honor, they watch their tongue. I can't say that. Oh, I can't say that word. Oh, I can't disrespect that adult. Oh, I can't speak like this. Oh, you guard your mouth. But when you're brazen, when you're az, when you're chutzpan, you don't care. You have a diarrhea of the mouth. Whatever comes out, there's no filter. There's no filters today. And that's why this non-stop is creating a new reality in the world. A new reality of what? A deteriorating society and a tremendous amount of crazy sicknesses that nobody ever saw before. What's creating it? Evil speech. Furthermore, it says, because it says all this stems from the ability and capability that came newly into this world, that every single individual in this world can speak about every other single individual in this world negatively and in public on a wholesale level.
No, they could be incognito too.
Well, the ability to speak about everybody was not available before. Again, 40, 50 years ago, who could you talk about? Who could you talk about? Your neighbor? A family friend? Even if you're on a high level where the newspapers had you in eyesight and they would listen to you and they would report. Again, how much would you have? Today, every single individual, any nobody, any Joe Schmo can get on the internet and choose any person, the 9 billion people that live on this planet, and slander them. And on a wholesale level. And it could catch fire. That type of power for Lashon Hara that has been given to every single individual changed the scope of our reality and changed the world that we live in. And that's why this Lashon Hara is what's actually delaying people's zivugim, delaying people having children, delaying people having parnasa, delaying people having shlom bayit. Why? Because all the gates of heavens lock up in one shot when a person doesn't block his mouth from speaking evil speech. All the things that a person wants, immediately they get blocked up when he speaks negatively about somebody. Could you imagine? Everybody always like, oh, what about the parnasa? Oh, what about when I'm going to find my zivug? Oh, when can I have a child? Are you talking about your friends all day long? Maybe you should stop that and things will change. Do you have an opinion about everybody and everything? Maybe that should stop. I know I actually met a rabbi from Israel 2 years ago. He actually doesn't speak to anyone, or he only speaks about himself and what pertains to him. He never mentions another person's name. He will not say another person's name. He'll say Yehudi Yakar, a dear Jew. He will never mention another person's name, and he won't say nothing that is not connected to him personally. What he needs or what he desires is the only thing that he'll speak about. And of course, glorifying God or whatnot. Everything else, he will never speak about another person. You say a person's name, he turns around. He has nothing to say. He turns mute. That's how careful he is with his speech. That's why when a person insults people, or he definitely, did lashon hara on a grand scale, it doesn't matter how much charity he gives. It doesn't matter how many fasts he does. It doesn't matter how many afflictions he goes through. It doesn't count for him at all in the heavens. It counts as absolute zero. Because until a person doesn't speak properly, until he doesn't work on him not having lashon hara, he is considered an absolute nobody in this world, and none of his requests are being answered in the heavens. Could you imagine? So, we said that Sam HaMavet, the elixir for death is evil speech. All the negative things that come along with the evil speech. Ma'u Sam HaChaim, what's the elixir of life? We know Sam HaChaim is the Torah. That a person wants to, Etz Chaim Yid Machzikim Ba. Anybody who wants life, anybody who wants to, move away from all things that are negative and death, he has to connect himself to the Torah. The Torah is the source of everything. Ma'am Loez brings to us a beautiful limud from Moshe Rabbeinu, who says, Moshe Rabbeinu Zichrono Livracha says, אותם הנגעים שבאו בבתים בבגדים, הוא אות ופלא באומה הישראלית, לא יראה דבר זה לשום אומה אחרת. He says this whole thing, that in the time of Bet HaMikdash, we had these negaim that were in the homes, in the clothing, or in the person. Know that this is exclusive to the Jewish people. No other nation in the world has this program where Hashem interacts with them in regards to their interaction in society, or the way that they speak in society, where Hashem shows them a sign in their house, on their clothes, or on their body. This didn't happen to a German, or to an Asian, or to an Indian. This was exclusive to the Jews. Because God loves us. That's why He created this item of Metzorah. Shenizaher ve'isur lashon hara, that we should be extra careful with the sin of evil speech. As it says, first he comes to the house. If he does teshuvah, how beautiful. He doesn't do teshuvah, it comes in his clothes. He doesn't teshuvah, it comes in his body. And not only that, when it comes on his body, now Hashem shows the entire world that this guy's tameh, this guy's impure, this guy's a slanderer, a gossiper. And by doing that, people will distance themselves away from him, and he'll be disconnected from society, not part of the Kehillah or Ma'am Yisrael. Velo yeh lo mi shidaber lashon hara. No, he has nobody to speak to. Meaning, when you speak lashon hara, you have to have somebody else to listen to it. But when you're removed from society, who are you going to talk to? Can't talk to anybody. Part of removing him from society is sort of like rehab from his sin. That's it. Like, you have no one to talk to. Work on yourself. That's it. So when a person goes through 7 days of not talking Lashon Hara, or maybe even more, another 7, another 7, another 7, whatever it is, it's actually rehab. Why? Because you're not giving him the trigger. You're not giving him somebody next to him to say, did you hear what she said? Did you hear what he said? There's nobody there to talk to. And by not being able to speak to anyone, and by people looking at him in the way that he, in his appearance, he would say, you know what? It's better to not be that guy. Let me do teshuvah. Let me heal. And let me go back to being normal. I don't want to be disconnected. I don't want to be alone. I want to be by myself. And he says, and v'ba'al nefesh, and anybody who was worried about himself should protect himself. Shediburo hiyeh rak b'divrei Torah. You know what should come out of your mouth? Bottom line,
Good things.
just good things. Just divrei Torah. Things that are connected to Torah. V'yakir b'gdulat haboreh. And you want to talk about something? Talk about the greatness of God. Zayikar ba'olam. The whole thing over here is a Jew. Lama kurim, we're called Yehudim. Because we like to say hoda'ah. We like to praise. Praise who? God. You can spend your entire day praising God. That's it. Stop talking about other people. Talk about God. How great God is. Look at God is the greatest artist. Look at this beach. Look at this tree. Oh my God. Oh, God is great. Look at this beautiful wedding last night. Oh my God, God is great. Look at that beautiful girl she healed. Look at that. Talking about the greatness of God, it's endless. You don't have personal stories? Open up books of tzaddikim. Your jaw will drop on the greatness of God, and He'll be able to merit to this world and to the next. Now, I want to mention one last thing before wrapping it up. Rabbi Yoel Sirkish, famously known as the Bach, Beit Hadash. It says that they used to take sick people and put him next to him. The rabbi would sit and learn, and anytime there was somebody sick, they said just stay with his 4 amot. Be in the 4 amot of the rabbi. He says while the rabbi is learning, he says if they leave the guy for 1 hour next to Rabbi Yoel Sirkish, for 1 hour while he's learning Torah, he would immediately heal. The Torah would heal him. And why would that be? He says because when a person is sick, the Shekhinah comes close. When a person is learning, the Shekhinah is close to him. So he said the Shekhinah Kedusha ita shora ala Bach. God's holy presence would reside on top of the Bach while he was learning. And because he was so learning in depth. Now the Shekhinah can't stand to see a Jew that's suffering. So what happens? He sees that the Bach, Rabbi Yoel Sirkish is learning, and the Shekhinah he brings the Shekhinah down from his learning. All of a sudden the Shekhinah says, oh my God, it's a sick Jew over here. What happens? The Shekhinah can't see a sick Jew suffering. The learning is so good, sick Jew. The learning is so good, sick Jew. Heal him. Any sick person that would come would heal. Chazak. So, Lashon Hara, evil speech, causes separation, division, disconnect between people and society. Moshe Rabbeinu warned us about it. Elu hadevarim. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted us to be what? United, connected. He says, no, don't let the Lashon Hara create division, disconnect between one of you, between each other and between society. So he warned us about Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara on a small level, like EESHA TAZRIA. Lashon Hara like the big public Lashon Hara that happened with the METZORAH. And of course, the Lashon Hara of this generation that comes with the age of technology, the Google generation of of internet, social media, newspapers, radio, TV, news, and all that. So let's go back to our original question. We're in a leap year. And we have a year where Kadosh Baruch Hu says, typically, I want you to deal with the concept of Lashon Hara 1 month. 1 week. TAZRIA METZORAH together. This year, he says, no. This is how I want it this year. This year, I want you to have it 1 week, 2 weeks, and then the 3rd week, Pesach. Why? Chayav Adam lichyot im hazman. We have to know that Hashem is talking to us. The parasha is talking to us. Why do we have to have 2 weeks of talking about Lashon Hara, then going into Pesach? Well, let's start talking about Pesach. Pesach is actually a combination of 2 words. Pesach.
Talk.
When a person speaks, the mouth that speaks. It's a speaking mouth. And what do we do with Pesach? V'higata lebancha bayom ha'u. We have the Haggadah. That the whole time of Pesach, that the mouth speaks, talks about what? The glory of God. Mm-hmm. That the entire holiday of Passover, we speak about the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Positive speech, not negative speech. An entire night of positive speech with Divrei Torah for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Glorifying God, exalting God. Now, I'll just give maybe a small intro into Pesach. You know, the whole story of Paro. What's Paro? Paro, if you take the letters, is Pe-Ra. He had a bad mouth. Paro is Pe-Ra. What was his bad mouth? What was the problem with him? You know that Paro was METZORAH. METZORAH was a leper also.
What?
Paro was a leper. He was a METZORAH. Now, why was he a METZORAH? Remember, the Midrash that said that he had to shecht 300 babies and bathe in the blood of 300 babies. Because why? Because he was METZORAH. How does a person become a leper? How does a person become METZORAH? Because he has what? Lashon Hara, right? He had such a bad mouth that it was coming out on his skin. That Paro, sheibed et Am Yisrael, avodat parech. We know that he enslaved the Jewish people for hard labor. The word parech is very interesting because it tells us that Paro used a very special technique. He started with them with perach. He started with them with a soft speech, soft tongue. What did he tell them? I got a new construction project. I need H&M builders. I have a new construction project. I'm building Piton Veramses. Come help me. I need a workforce. I need a good workforce. I'm willing to pay $100 a brick. So you have Reuven going back to Mrs. Reuven, and he tells her, we're going to be rich. Paro is paying $100 a brick. Oh my God. And they're already counting. I could do 1,000 bricks a day. And if I really try, 1,200 bricks a day. Oh, that's it. We're going to become millionaires, right? We're going to buy you a dress. We're going to buy we're going to enlarge our tent. Whatever it is that they do back in those days. Paro comes and he tells them, guys, I'm sorry. We had some budget changes. We're down to $50 a brick. Reuven goes back to Mrs. Reuven and says, okay, $50. It's still amazing money. The market is, the market is down, but it's still great money. He comes back, 50 becomes 25. 25 becomes 10. 10 becomes 5. 5 becomes 1. 1 becomes you're my slave. Perach became parech. He started with them with perach, with a soft tongue. Come, I'll give you this, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. Eventually became avodat parech. Now, Nativot Shalom, and with this probably we'll conclude, tells us an incredible connection of the METZORAH, the Mazriah, EESHA ki TAZRIA, the METZORAH, and Pesach. He says, אף בזמן הזה שאין לנו כהן ולא קורבנות. You know, every time we talk about these things, we think they're exclusive to the desert or exclusive to the time of Bet HaMikdash. We don't have a kohen. This tzara thing is no longer an item. We just spent an hour and a half talking about something that is nothing even relevant to today's life. Wrong. It's absolutely relevant. The Torah is never stale. And it says, "Hare ze ba lelamedenu Torat Chaim hanoheget bechol ed bechol sha'ah." It says what we're going to learn from this lesson is a life lesson that we can extract for our day-to-day life. Don't think we just spent an hour and a half talking about leprosy and things that are exclusive to the past. It says, I'm going to show you how it's very much connected to your day-to-day life today. He says, Pesach. Because again, we want to, the name of the class was EESHA, TAZRIA, METZORAH, and Pesach. What's the connection between the three? He says, notice that Pesach, we're instructed to eat in groups. Everybody gets together in big groups. He says, even though there's certain mitzvot that the Torah tells us, that even if a person does it on an individual basis, he does it individually, it's fine. Not too many mitzvot require a quorum. Not too many mitzvot require you to be with a lot of people. You can do a mitzvah by yourself. He says, but there's certain things that when a person wants to reach the ultimate effect from the mitzvah, he has to do it in a quorum. He has to do it in a big groups like Shabbat, we have when we do mitzvot kedoshim, like when kol adat bnei Israel, like we just finished the year of Hakel. Hakel is another mitzvah that you have to gather the whole nation. Meaning there are some mitzvot that you need the power of the many in order to activate it. He says Pesach is one of them. V'kmo ken hu inyan Pesach, and this is what is the inyan of Pesach. Shuzman cherutenu. It's the time of our freedom. Shayudi mishtacher bo legamre. That this is the time when a Jew frees himself up from bondage. Ve'eno nechal biyachid ela b'chabura. And a person can't free himself up from bondage individually. He has to do it in a big group. Umesig et koach hatahara shel mikveh Yisrael Hashem. And he can get this release, this freedom, through the power of purifying himself by being part of a group. As it says in the pasuk, mikveh Yisrael Hashem. The mikveh of the Jewish people is God. Meaning the Jewish people are actually like a mikveh. Up until now we thought mikveh is a body of water, and by himself you gotta go dip, and that's a mikveh. The pasuk is telling us there's another mikveh, a human mikveh. There's the Jewish people, mikveh Yisrael Hashem. That the Jewish people are actually mikveh. You know, there's actually in weddings, it's funny, I should just mention it. Sometimes you'll see the really, really, really ultra-Orthodox that are very in tune to this. You'll see that what they do, they see until there's enough amount of people going around, and what do? They go into the center and they come out. They go into the center and they come out. They treat it like a mikveh, because mikveh Yisrael Hashem. They go into like a mikveh of Yehudim around them. That's why the whole circle of people dance in the middle. It's like going into an actual mikveh. Furthermore, it says, Inyan Pesach nechal b'chavura. Gam bezman hazeh. Just like we all gather together to eat in Pesach and to speak the Haggadah, and it's a family event, it's a group event where we all congregate. Gam bezman hazeh. Now also, in order to free ourselves from all the negative spiritual kohot, hasitra achra, shekol echad, everybody has the grip of the devil has a grip on him. The dark side has a grip on him. In order to free them up from that grip, in whatever it is, whether it's an addiction for food, addiction to drugs, addiction to the gambling, a person is dealing with anger issues, a person is dealing with poverty, a person is dealing with loneliness, depression, whatever it is, whatever a person is struggling with, the Sitra Achra has their grip on him. What should he do? Come into Pesach. V'rak b'koach haPesach b'chabura. When he does Pesach in a group, he's able to nullify these negative spirits that are around him. furthermore, continues to say one other beautiful thing. He says, "Hayudim mekusharim yachdav," that the Jews are connected. B'matara le'amshich al atzmam shilton ha'kedusha. When the Jews are united together with the focus, with the goal, in order to bring down the holiness, the kedusha upon them. Kol dor v'dor chayav adam lirot atzmo כאילו יצא מצרים. And this is why we do this practice on the Pesach night, on the Seder night, that we have to imagine ourselves that we got out of Mitzrayim. Why? When we do that exercise, let's call it, what's happening? We're freeing ourselves up from the dark side, just like the Jewish people did, and we are entering this unifying force as a people and connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what's happening on that night. Just like in the time of the exile, when the Jewish people got out from the control of Paro, the control of the 49 levels of Tumah that they were in, and they became on the highest level and connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. כך בכל שנה ושנה צריך יהודי בחג הקדוש הזה לצאת משלטון הטומאה ולהיכנס לשלטון הקדושה, שהשער לכל זה הפסח נאכל בחבורה. And it says the secret to that is when a person wants to get that true freedom, put yourself in a group that is doing the exact same spiritual exercise, that he's able to celebrate Pesach in a group, and he's able to get out from the 49 levels of Tumah or whatever Sitra Acha has a hold on him, and gets into that strong connection of Jewish life, Jewish community, and God as the ruler, which we see is the complete opposite of the leper. What does the leper do? He creates division. He says, I'm going to distance people from you. Comes Pesach and says, no, we bring everybody together. He's using evil speech. What do we use? Positive speech. He's talking Lashon Hara. We talk about the Haggadah. The Haggadah was all the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So why do we have this 2 weeks and then Haggadah? Because Hashem is saying, Tav Shin Pei Dalet, 2024 is a rough year for Lashon Hara. And you need to spend 2 weeks to know that this is an item. 1 week is not enough. 2 weeks you got to learn how to not talk Lashon Hara. And then after that, go straight into talking Lashon Tov. Right going to Haggadah, because the world is suffering from Lashon Hara. I'm going to be just 5 more minutes because I want to make this point as well. Current events. Let me just summarize Netizvot Shalom. The eating together creates unity. The reciting the Haggadah is us doing the Lashon Tov, Diburim Tovim. The learning of the Torah is the rectifying the damage, the Ripui Lakol, the life elixir of the Lashon Hara that creates division. And I just want to add one final point. October 7th was a tremendous division in Am Yisrael. So much that Hashem said, enough, I can't. We're 2 weeks before Pesach. What just happened in Israel?
A week before Pesach.
But the whole PARASHAT TAZRIA, which is the concept of Lashon Hara, on that week, what happened? Thousands and thousands of Jews speaking Lashon Hara about each other, going to the streets. And again, what? Again, division in the land of Israel. You're in the middle of a war. Unity proved itself to work. In the middle of trying to figure out this October 7th massacre, you still have Jews in Israel by the thousands demonstrating in the streets, saying division. We are not like you. We don't want to be with you. We want to separate from you. You are not like us. You're not good for us. We want something else. In the middle of war, what happened right after? Iran. 300 rockets. Hashem says, well, you don't get it? You didn't learn? You didn't learn the division before? Simchat Torah, you remember? You did all the division that was there, and this happened. In the middle of the war, you're doing this. Hashem immediately, as soon as they took to the streets, a few days later, 300 rockets. You have to be blind not to connect the dots. You have to be completely clueless not to say there is something connected to all these events. We are living in a world where Hashem is in a hester panim. Hashem is concealed from us. You have to look for God to find Him. Believe me, if you start to look, He's everywhere. But we're in a hester panim. We're not in a generation like the generation of Dora Dea of seeing open miracles every day in the desert. We're not in the generation of Bet HaMikdash Rishon or Sheni that God's holy presence was around and we had all these this close connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are in a generation that there's a hester panim. God is concealing Himself, and only those that look for Him will find Him. Look for God, you'll find Him in your life. Look for God in current events, and you can connect the dots. I took a very, very long road to make this point, because you can't turn a blind eye to the facts. We are in the danger zone. We're in a deteriorating society. The Lashon Hara is the norm. As a matter of fact, when I talk to people about Lashon Hara, they said, everybody does it. You can't stop. Whatever. It's not. It's ruining the world that we live in. It's creating wars. It's creating deaths. It's creating a society where the Jews... Can you imagine being an Israeli, living in Israel? Your entire life bombs over you? Why? Because of how the deterioration of society, social media, internet, they took it to the wrong place. Above and beyond that, you can see that Hashem is talking to us. The minute that they show a huge demonstration of, once again, division, Hashem brings 300 rockets. Why? Go back to being united. Go back to Achadut. That worked for you. You should know that Hashem creates these events because each one of these events picks up another group of people. Corona brought some people back. October 7th brought some people back. 300 rockets from Iran brought some people back. The whole point is that we should not need another October 7th chas v'shalom or more rockets from Iran to bring more people. Stop being stubborn. Get the point. We just need achdut and a little bit of, just a little bit of Torah, mitzvot, maasim tovim, a couple of Shabbatot here and there. Everybody's going to get on board and that's it. Mashiach energy is here. The Geulah is here. Hashem is ready, but we are like resisting. And we can see that what is the Achilles heel of the Jewish people? Division. As you recall, as I told you, the Imam that said, when the Jewish people are united, don't touch them. Do not touch them. You can't win them. You cannot win them. When they're united, they will win. But when they're divided, attack. When they saw us to the streets, what did they do? Attack. Why? They're divided. They already know the formula. When we're divided, they attack. When we're united, they know to stay away. And this is exactly how it comes down to our practical lessons for day to day. Our speech, our mouth. You know what saves another scud from coming? Your mouth. The way you talk with your family. The way you go online. And of course, I'm talking to tzaddikim over here, but if you could affect another person that is infected with this sickness of talking negatively about other people. Sometimes it's good kids. Good kids that just want to talk about their friends in school and their teacher in school, and you have to teach them. Can't say that about your teacher. Can't say that about your friends. Something as innocent even as children in school. You don't have to be like evil people with a horn sticking, die. No. It's even like, even regular people. Regular people, sometimes they fall for it. And we have to be cognizant, we have to be aware, because the whole world is standing on somebody who could block his mouth from saying something negative. Is that Hashem that we merit to refining our character, to become better versions of ourselves, to being able to not to speak evil speech and be able to improve the situation in the world. A little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness. You'd be surprised with a little bit of your power. Remember, we are the worm, we are the tolad. Our power is our mouth. we can go into a cedar tree that is so strong, and little by little, with our small tefillah, with our small shmaisa, with our small Hashanah, make that big enemy fall. Hashem vayich etchem, sameach etchem. We are going to take a break up until
May 6th.
May 6th. May 6th is going to be Monday when we come back. 2 days after that is going to be Rosh Chodesh. A few days, and then we're going to go back to. We're going to go back to a few more classes of Tanya. We got about 4. We're going to finish up Tefillah 101, and then we're going to embark on 13th Midot before for the rest of the year. We're going to do that, and that's it. Be'ezat Hashem. Hashem v'echotchem sameach. Kol tov.